Have you ever woken up with the strange sensation that something is moving behind the scenes of your life? Something you cannot see with your eyes, but your spirit feels as if it were a knife pointed at your back. Have you ever had that inexplicable tightness in your chest, that silent certainty that there are people, known or unknown, sitting somewhere plotting your end, your humiliation, your downfall? It is not paranoia. It is not an exaggeration of your tired mind. It is not disguised insecurity. It is spiritual discernment. It is your spirit picking up on what your physical eyes have not yet seen. There is a council gathered against you. There are people waking up early thinking about how to bring you down. There are people losing sleep planning the day they will see you on the ground. And what I am going to reveal to you in the next few minutes will change absolutely everything, because what these people do not know is that while they plotted your downfall on earth, heaven has convened in an extraordinary session and decreed your rise. Think with me. What if every silent envy, every conversation you overheard halfway, every friendship that cooled for no reason, every door that closed in a strange way, were actually the clearest sign that you are too big for the place where you are? What if the attempt to bury you were the fertilizer that God is using to plant you deeper before lifting you higher? Because that is exactly what is happening to you right now, and the more I speak, the more your heart recognizes the truth. There is an invisible war being waged, and you are the centerpiece of this battle. They underestimated you. They called you small, weak, a dreamer, a poor soul. They laughed when you fell, celebrated when you cried, feigned support while rooting for your end. But what they did not calculate is that there is a God who records every tear of yours in a golden pitcher, and that this same God has the power to transform the poison they prepared against you into medicine for your glory. Joseph was sold by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, abandoned, forgotten, auctioned off as a slave. They plotted his downfall in detail. But heaven had already decreed something else. Years later, those same brothers prostrated themselves before him, begging for bread. Daniel was denounced by men who envied his position. They set up a lion's den with his name and address on it. They plotted his downfall. But heaven sent angels who shut the mouths of the beasts, and the ones who fell into the den the next day were the accusers themselves. There is a pattern that has repeated for millennia, and it is about to repeat in your life because you are chosen, and the chosen one never falls alone. When the chosen one seems to fall, in reality, he is being launched. That is why I prepared the powerful ebook for you, the God-Chosen Family Protection Handbook. This ebook is not just reading. It is the map that reveals exactly who is sitting at that table, plotting your downfall, what spiritual weapons they are using against you and your home, and what are the heavenly decrees you need to pronounce right now to turn the tide. This ebook was created for those who have awakened enough to understand that all the persecution you suffer is not about you being small, it is about you being too dangerous for the plans of hell. It shows the hidden rules of this war that no one told you about. It unmasks the strategies they use against your family, against your children, against your marriage, against your mind. The link is pinned in the first comment at the top. But I must warn you, this type of content challenges narratives that many people have an interest in keeping intact, because as long as you do not know the rules, you remain an easy target. They have tried to silence this knowledge before, and that is why this material may be taken down at any moment. Do not wait for the right moment, chosen one. The right moment is now because you did not arrive at this video by accident. Download it now and comment below, "I am chosen and I will download the ebook." This is your act of faith. This is the first decree you sign telling heaven that you accept your position as chosen and that you refuse to continue being a victim of the plans they have armed against you. Now that you have made this commitment, pay close attention, because the next revelation is the definitive blow against the oppression they tried to place upon your life. There is something few preachers have the courage to tell you, but I will tell you now because you deserve the raw truth. The downfall they plotted for you was not improvised. It was architected with time, with patience, and with method. They studied your steps, noted your weaknesses, mapped your blind spots, discovered who the people you love most are, and attacked exactly there. Because the enemy is not stupid. The enemy is a millennial strategist who has learned to destroy lives without needing to appear. He uses people. He uses relatives. He uses childhood friends. He uses co-workers. He uses brothers in the church. He uses the poisoned tongue of the person who hugs you on the outside and curses you on the inside. And you, chosen one, were trained to ignore these signs, were taught to think you were exaggerating, were convinced to swallow the poison in the name of peace. But heaven saw everything. Heaven noted every word spoken against you in the office restroom, in barbecue conversations, in deleted audio messages, in family meetings where they judged you behind your back. And heaven is now about to execute the sentence, because it is written that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and that every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the decree, this is the verdict. This is the seal that is being placed upon your life at this exact moment that you are hearing these words. They plotted the downfall, but heaven has decreed the rise, and when heaven decrees, the entire earth must bow. You will start to see strange things happening in the coming weeks. People who betrayed you will start to go through situations that will expose the truth they were hiding. Doors that had been locked for years will open suddenly, without you forcing anything. Unexpected phone calls will arrive. Names you didn't even remember anymore will return to your life, bringing opportunities. And the same ones who laughed at your pain will need to look you in the eyes while you rise, because the justice of heaven is poetic. It is surgical. It is precise. It does not miss the time. It does not miss the dose. It does not miss the recipient. When God lifts the chosen one, he lifts him before the very enemies of the chosen one, and that scene is so powerful that it changes destinies forever. Remember the psalm that says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." It is not a hidden table. It is not a table in the basement. It is a table served right in front of the eyes of those who wanted to see you go hungry. This is God's style when he works in favor of his chosen ones. He does not bless you in secret. He blesses you in public. And your time has arrived. But I need you to understand something crucial now, because without this understanding, you cannot receive what heaven has already decreed. The rise of the chosen one has a price, and this price is called posture. You cannot rise with the same mentality with which you were being brought down. You cannot receive the inheritance speaking like a victim. You cannot occupy the throne thinking like a beggar. There is an internal exchange that needs to happen, and it begins exactly at the moment you decide to stop crying for those who abandoned you and start celebrating in advance those who are yet to come. Those chosen by God go through a process called the wilderness processing. It is a period where everything seems to go wrong on purpose, where people walk away on purpose, where doors close on purpose, where the silence of heaven seems eternal on purpose. But it is not abandonment, chosen one. It is refinement. It is God removing from near you the people who did not have permission to accompany you in the next phase. It is God drying up your circle, sifting your friendships, removing the parasites that were draining your spiritual energy without you noticing. When you leave the wilderness, you leave with another authority, another voice, another gaze. The people who knew you before no longer recognize you. And this is purposeful, because heaven cannot deliver the glory to you if you are still dressed in the clothes of humiliation. It was like that with David, who went from the cave to the palace but first needed to stop seeing himself as a fugitive. It was like that with Moses, who went from exile to the leadership of a nation but first needed to burn the identity of a fugitive murderer. It was like that with Job, who received double everything he lost but first needed to stop arguing with the friends who came to accuse instead of console. And it will be like that with you, chosen one, because the pattern of heaven does not change. First, heaven prepares the air internally, then heaven delivers the inheritance externally, and you are exactly on that threshold now. This tightness you feel, this anguish you cannot explain, this sensation of being between two worlds, is the clearest sign that the turnaround is a few inches away from you. Do not give up in the last chapter. Many people quit the race when there was only one turn left to see the finish line, and it is exactly at this point that I need to return to talking to you about the e-book, the God-chosen Family Protection Handbook, because everything I just explained to you about this spiritual turnaround is deepened in its pages. This e-book teaches specifically how to shield your family while you go through this process of rising, because the enemy can no longer reach you directly, So he tries to reach you from the sides, through your children, through your spouse, through your parents. This ebook reveals what are the spiritual portals that remain open in your home without you knowing. What are the strategic prayers that seal each room? What are the spiritual hours when the attack is strongest, and how you position yourself to receive total protection? It explains in detail who is playing against your rise, what are the most common disguises they use to enter your life pretending to be a friend, and what are the words of decree you need to pronounce to reverse each plan. The link remains pinned in the first comment at the top, but I insist. This content has already been marked as challenging by algorithms that try to push down any material that teaches the chosen one how to truly protect themselves. That is why I cannot guarantee how long it will be available. This ebook challenges narratives that are too comfortable, and for that reason, there have already been real attempts to take down access. Do not leave it for later, chosen one. You did not arrive at this exact minute of this video by coincidence. Download it now and comment, "I am chosen and I will download the ebook." This comment is a public profession of faith. It is you positioning yourself on the battlefield on the right side. Now that you have sealed this commitment, hold on tight, because the next part of this revelation is what will give you the final key to understand why they tried to bring you down and why heaven will not allow it. There is a question that perhaps you have never asked directly, but that has been hammering your unconscious for years. Why me? Why has my life always had this pattern of battles heavier than others? Why does it seem that every time I get close to a victory, something happens to push me 3 steps back? Why do people who openly do evil seem to prosper without effort, while I, who try to do what is right, live being tested in everything? The answer is simple and at the same time terrifying. Because you are different. Because you carry in your spirit a mark that the enemy identified from before you were born. Because there are spiritual lineages of chosen ones, and when a soul with this mark incarnates on this earth, the entire system of evil receives a warning. You have been monitored since childhood. Those strange dreams you had in childhood, that no one knew how to explain, that sensitivity that made you cry at things other children didn't even notice, that intuition that warned you about the wrong people before they did anything wrong. All of these were manifestations of your spiritual identity being recognized by both sides. Heaven watched you with expectation, and hell watched you with concern. That is why your trajectory was never linear. That is why you always had to fight for what others received for free. That is why rejection was a constant theme in your life from early on. That is why injustice seems to have pursued you. It is not bad luck. It is not karma. It is not coincidence. It is recognition. The system knows who you are, and it is afraid of what you will become when you finally assume this identity completely. But there is one thing the enemy forgot to calculate. He can only bring you down as long as you do not know who you are. The day the chosen one discovers he is chosen, the game flips instantly. And that is exactly what is happening at this moment. Every word that enters your ears is a piece of the blindfold falling from your eyes. Every truth you recognize as yours is a layer of lies being destroyed in the spiritual plane. And when you finish listening to this video, you will no longer be the same person who started listening. Because heaven marked this meeting between you and this message. It was not the algorithm. It was not your finger sliding across the screen. It was an angel pushing you here. And now that you have arrived, there is no turning back. The reversal of the curses they armed against you works in a specific way, and few know this. When someone pronounces words against your life with the intention of bringing you down, these words form spiritual structures that hover over you, waiting for the right moment to manifest. There are people who live for years carrying these structures without knowing it. They are the famous open doors, the repetitive cycles, the situations that repeat generation after generation. The good news is that there is a clear biblical principle. The curse without cause shall not alight. When you are a chosen one living in covenant with God, it does not matter how many words have been launched against you. They have nowhere to land. But for them to be resent back to the one who sent them, you need to do something. You need to pronounce the contrary decree. You need out loud to declare that what they spoke against you turns back against the one who spoke it, twofold. It is not revenge, it is spiritual justice. It is the law of the mirror working in the invisible world. And when the chosen one learns to use this law, the environment around him starts to change in a way that is frightening to those who observe him. Marriages of those who wished you ill start to crumble. Businesses of those who sabotaged you start to break. The health of those who laughed at your pain starts to fail. It is not God being cruel. It is the harvest arriving for those who planted hatred, thinking there would be no season. But the mature chosen one does not celebrate the downfall of enemies. The mature chosen one prays for the enemies while rising, because he understands that every soul is important and that vengeance belongs to the Lord. This is the posture that unlocks the next level, because when you can look at the one who stabbed you and still wish for redemption for that soul, you access an authority that few Christians in the world possess. And it is this authority that heaven is about to deposit in your hands. You are being formed to be an example, a leader, a reference. And leaders are not molded in soft soil. Leaders are molded in furnaces of 7 times more heat, exactly as happened with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who entered bound and came out loose, walking alongside a 4th man whom no one placed there. This 4th man is your companion at this exact moment of your life. You are not alone in this walk, even when it seems you are. There is someone walking with you in the middle of the fire, and when you come out, you will come out without the smell of smoke and with a testimony to change the lives of thousands. There is a scene that repeats in the spiritual plane every time a chosen one starts to truly awaken, and I want you to visualize it with me. Imagine a dark meeting room where entities that feed on your pain are sitting around a table with documents scattered, planning the next attacks against you. They are confident because for a long time you did not react, you did not pray, you did not declare, you did not break through, you only absorbed. But suddenly, a light starts to enter from under the door of this room. The entities look at each other startled. The light increases. The documents on the table start to dissolve. The plans start to disappear. And a voice coming from the heavens declares, "This one is mine. Retreat." And they must retreat, because heaven has authority over hell. It always has, it always will. What has changed now is that you are finally claiming this authority for yourself. You finally understood that you are not a victim, you are an heir. You finally stopped asking for crumbs and started sitting at the table that Jesus prepared for you. And this change of posture is what reverses decades of oppression in a matter of days. You will start to notice that people who seem to have the power to bring you down now cannot even look you in the eyes. You will notice that situations that used to keep you awake now pass by you like wind. You will feel a new peace, a new strength, a new clarity, and this will frighten those who knew you as the nervous, anxious, tormented person. Because the chosen one, who recognizes his identity, walks differently, speaks differently, decides differently, invests differently, loves differently, and the world is forced to treat differently those who treat themselves differently. You will notice that prosperity starts to arrive from unexpected sources. Not the superficial prosperity that the world preaches, but the integral prosperity, which encompasses peace, health, restored family, clear purpose, enough money to be a channel of blessing for others. Because the prosperous chosen one is not the one who accumulates, it is the one who becomes a river that blesses all who approach. And you are being prepared to be exactly that river. The same ones who threw stones at your fountain will one day need to quench their thirst at your bank. That is why I need to return one more time to the subject of the e-book, the God-chosen Family Protection Handbook, because everything I am telling you about this turnaround of heaven against the plans of your enemy's downfall is systematized there, with step-by-step instructions, with specific prayers, with combat declarations, and with spiritual maps that protect each area of your home. This e-book addresses specifically how you deal with the attacks that come from your own family members, from your own friends, from your own relationships, that should protect you and that became instruments of the enemy. It explains the types of spiritual envy, the differences between hereditary curses and personal attacks, how to identify the origin of each battle, and mainly, it delivers the reversal prayers that send back to the sender every poisoned word they tried to place upon your family. The link is pinned in the first comment at the top, and I insist, It is not by chance that this ebook arrived precisely at this video, precisely at this title about a decreed rise. Heaven is confirming that this is your moment. This material was made for those who understood that spiritual reality is much deeper than they taught, and that the only way not to be swallowed by this depth is to have a manual in your hands. And that is what this ebook is, the manual that no one gave you when you needed it, but that is arriving now at the right time to change the history of your home. They have already tried to silence content like this before. There have been reports, there has been pressure, and that is why the link may be taken down at any moment. Do not count on luck. Count on your obedience to the impulse you are feeling at this exact second. Download it now, and when you download it, leave the comment below. I am chosen, and I will download the ebook. This comment is a decree. It is a signature, it is a mark that you are placing in heaven, saying that you received the message and that you position yourself on the side of the divine plan for your life. Now that you have done this, prepare yourself, because the final part of this revelation is what will definitively seal your rise and expose completely why everything they tried against you turned into fuel for your glory. There is a secret that the elders of faith knew, and that was lost amidst the lukewarm religiosity of recent times. This secret is that the chosen one who understands God's timing does not despair in man's timing. You need to understand that heaven's clock does not tick like earth's clock. Here on earth, 7 years seem like a whole lifetime. In heaven, 7 years pass like a sigh. And often what seems like a delay is actually perfect calibration. God is aligning people, situations, finances, geographies, opportunities, all at the same time, so that when the rise happens, it happens with full force, without gaps, without setbacks. When you read the history of the great chosen ones of the Bible, you will notice that all of them had to wait longer than they would have liked. Abraham waited decades for the child of promise. Joseph waited 13 years between the dream and the throne. David waited years between the anointing and the crown. Moses waited 40 years in the wilderness before the official call. And Jesus himself waited 30 years of hidden life before 3 years of visible ministry. Why? Because heaven is never in a hurry, and those who are never in a hurry never fail. You are being trained at this same level of supernatural patience, and every time you feel like giving up, it is exactly because the delivery is near. The enemy works harder on the eve of the miracle. The pressure increases just before the birth. The night gets darkest just before the dawn. These sayings exist because they describe a universal spiritual reality. Everything that is great hurts to be born. And you, chosen one, are about to give birth to a phase of your life that will leave everyone open-mouthed. Your story will become a testimony. Your pain will become a stage. Your humiliation will become honor. Your scarcity will become testimonial abundance. The people who abandoned you will want to return, and you will need discernment to know who was really sent back by God and who only returned because they smelled the prosperity. This discernment, this spiritual filter, is one of the most valuable things you will develop in this phase, because the elevated chosen one needs to be careful with whom he sustains, whom he allows near, and with whom he shares the plans of heaven. What they tried to do to you was the first phase of something they don't even understand they were participating in. They were instruments, without knowing it, of the process of burning your impurities. They pushed you toward God when you wanted to stay comfortable in mediocrity. They took you out of the safe zone when you needed to be pushed out of it. They cut ties that should have been cut a long time ago. They taught you through pain what you couldn't learn through the Word. And now when you look back some time from now, you will realize that each enemy was, ironically, an involuntary agent of your growth. Not that God sent evil to you. Never. The evil was their choice. But God, being a master at transforming ruin into a masterpiece, used their wickedness as a chisel to sculpt the masterpiece that you are becoming. This is the level of sovereignty of our God. He does not need to neutralize the enemy. He makes the enemy work for free for him. It was what he did with Pharaoh, who took care of Moses in the very palace where Moses would later return as a liberator. It was what he did with the furnace, which burned only the ropes and left the young men free. It was what he did with the cross, which was supposed to be an instrument of death and became a symbol of eternal life. And it is what he is doing with your story now, Each enemy from your past will become a comma in your testimony. Each wound will become a scar of honor. Each night of crying will become a chorus of a new song. Each tear will become ink in the biography that will still inspire generations. You are the next reference of overcoming. You are the next viral testimony. You are the next story that will make someone in extreme suffering say, "If God lifted that person, he can also lift me." And this responsibility, this legacy, is what you are being prepared to carry. It is not light, but it is glorious. It is not easy, but it is eternal. It is not instantaneous, but it is certain. Before I end this word, I need to remind you one last time of the ebook, the God-Chosen Family Protection Handbook, because I know that many people hear a strong word, feel it, cry, declare it, and then let life swallow the impulse and lose the chance to seal the turnaround. Do not be that type of person. You heard all this for a reason, and the continuity of this moment depends on a concrete action on your part. This ebook is the practical tool that will sustain the revelation you just received, because feeling without action evaporates, but applied knowledge builds fortresses. It will teach you how to keep this new consciousness active every day, how to shield your family from the counterattacks that will come, how to recognize every spiritual movement that manifests from now on, and how to continue rising while your enemies descend, without arrogance, without revenge, but with the serenity of one who understood that heaven has already decreed and that it is up to you only to walk in the direction of what is already yours. This ebook teaches exactly how to protect your home in this transition phase, which psalms to pronounce in each situation, how to identify when someone is being used against you, how to cut spiritual ties with toxic people without needing to make a scandal, and how to seal each of your children under the covering of the blood of Jesus every day. The link remains pinned in the first comment at the top, and I reinforce, this content challenges narratives that many have an interest in keeping intact, because an informed and spiritually armed chosen one is hell's worst nightmare. They have already tried to take down this material before, and that is why it may not be available for much longer. Do not wait for the right moment, chosen one, because the right moment is now. You did not arrive at the end of this video by chance. Download your ebook now, and before you leave in the comments, "I am chosen and I will download the ebook." This comment is your public declaration that you accept what heaven has decreed, that you position yourself on the side of the light, and that you will no longer allow the plans of hell to determine the size of your life. And to finish, I want you to hear this as if it came directly from the throne. They plotted, yes. They gathered, yes. They spoke, yes. They laughed, yes. They armed, yes. But the final verdict is not theirs, it is mine, says the Lord. And my verdict is that this chosen one of mine rises in faith, rises in finances, rises in respect, rises in authority, rises in health, rises in family, rises in purpose. And whoever rose against this chosen one of mine will have to watch in silence the glory that I promised manifest before their very eyes, not as revenge, but as proof that my word never returns empty. Receive this decree now. Put your hand on your chest if possible, breathe deeply and say out loud, "I receive, I accept, I believe, I am chosen. They plotted my downfall, but heaven decreed my rise, and it is done. There, chosen one, it is sealed." What you just declared with your own mouth was recorded in the heavens. Now go in peace, download the ebook, protect your family, and prepare yourself, because your season of glory has begun, and nothing nor anyone has the power to stop what God has already decreed for you.